12 o'clock on the wall.
It's the
Madam Mayor, we're live.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Tuesday, June 13th, City Commission joint work session with the Electric Utility Advisory Board to order, and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mayor Pam Triolo,
Here,
Vice Mayor Scott Maxwell,
here.
Commissioner Omari Hardy,
Here.
Commissioner Andy Amoroso,
Here.
Commissioner Herman Robinson.
Here.
on behalf of the Electrical Utility
Lisa
Advisory Board.
Maxwell, Electric Utility Advisory Board member.
Noah Tennyson, same.
Caroline Clore, same. Peggy Fisher, same.
Roger St. Martin, ditto.
Thank you all and welcome. All right, if everyone please rise for the pledge, brought to you by Commissioner Amoroso.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, thank you. New business, an update from the Electric Utility Advisory Board to the City Commission regarding current issues. Who's gonna start? City Manager?
Well,
Chair?
Madam Mayor, I would be happy to. First of all, thank you for this opportunity to meet with you and bring the commission up to speed on what's been going on with our committee, although
You
I
can
know
bring that
you
mic
get,
a little closer, I'm sorry, so
Sure.
people at home can hear. Thank you.
so I know you get regular reports, but there are some global issues that we'd like to brief you on this evening. They're most part very exciting. We're really proud of the work of the board, and I think that's reflected in our work product. So we hope you agree. You know the members of the committee. They will be chiming in as they see fit, and we have a presentation for you tonight we'd like to take you through.
Sounds good. Let's get her started.
okay, Darian, you want to put the slide up? Uh-oh.
Do we have resolution?
It's right there in the middle of the.
Which one?
Anthony, it's right in the center.
Oh, this one, right?
Yes, sir.
While he's working on that,
Yes.
it is the first part of the report is about the electric utility director position. As you know, we currently are seeking a new electric utility director, and we hired a national firm who brought in some very good candidates. We've had several interviews, and we're narrowing it down to the top couple. One of the selections that I've been able to hone in on, actually we have a meeting with the chair of the UAB, Ms. Maxwell, who's going to be interviewing that first choice. Tomorrow night is our meeting, I believe. Actually, he's coming into town. So we'll probably have one more follow-up interview with another candidate. And then from there, I'll be making a selection on the director so that we can get the leadership in the organization back in place and underway to fulfill the mission and policy direction that we're getting from the commission. So that's a huge effort to go out and look nationally and try to find a director. So we're real excited about the candidates. So that was the first report. I went ahead and did it for you.
Thank you. And let me just say that I think Walt is here.
Yes.
Walt has done a tremendous, you should know, Walt has done a tremendous job keeping the ship afloat and moving and handling issues as they come up on a daily basis as the acting director. And we've really relied on him heavily in the interim between directors. And, I'm very grateful, and I know the board is as well, for his good stewardship in the meantime.
We've come to depend on it as well, too. Thank you, Walt.
Thank you.
Okay. One of the things that we've talked about at length is the need for a real business plan for the utility. It is an asset. It makes money for the city, but it also is critical for the well-being of our residents. And it needs to operate efficiently and effectively, and our rates need to be appropriate for the cost of running the utility. And so in order to ensure that happens, we need to have a business plan, one that's well thought out and researched. And so one of the things that is ongoing, and you'll see here the before and after kind of thought process, we're looking at an RFQ to have someone come in and help provide that business plan. That will be ultimately brought to you for approval. And, Walt, when is the expected date for that advertisement?
That'll be the first part of July.
So this is a very important piece to bringing the utility into a whole host of things that we think are important for ongoing running of the utility. And it's a top priority. So, board members, do you have anything to add to the business plan?
Madam Mayor,
Vice Mayor?
how do you want us to address, as we go through this tonight, do you want us to wait till the very end of the presentation? Or do you want to try to take things one at a time?
I think we can take them one at a time because they're all different aspects. Yeah.
Then if I might. A business plan. I think we all have a general idea of what a business plan is. I'm just curious as to why we're hiring an outside entity to create a business plan. Isn't that something that we would kind of lean on a utility director and his staff? I mean, these folks, certainly if they don't understand the things that we need or a utility operation would need to run efficiently, to be profitable, and to put things in place for the future, then do you see where I'm coming from? Why do we have to bring somebody else to help us with a business plan?
I do.
And based on your slide there, I see that the difference in the after piece is electric suppliers. So is that just an illustration of, what we have now, and with the business plan we might have other things to think about? Is that what that is? There's nothing specifically?
No. Yeah, that's just an example photo that was put in there. It's not anything to hang your hat on as far as a specific graphic does.
Okay.
If I could, Madam Chair and Mayor, respond to Vice Mayor. If you'll recall, when the EUAB was originally created, after we went through the process of selecting OUC and you asked them to continue to operate to help us out, they set out a list of work items that they wanted to accomplish based on what was going on at the time. And one of them was to bring in consultants to value the system, because there was some concern about we didn't know what the value of the asset was. The other item that was a big one was there was a recognition that at some point there would have to be a discussion about potentially repowering. And that led to a discussion about, well, if we do, what is that thing going to look like? What would that new power plant or plants or configuration of different sources be? And that would necessitate really understanding what the market is. Fast forward to today, bringing in a consultant, whether the electric utility director is on board or not, and they'll be on board during this process. You still need to have someone come in that has their finger on the pulse of the market, emerging technology, and what kinds of things to factor in on that huge decision of what this next power plant would be like. From the size to the fuel to, are you going to be a net producer and seller on the market, on the grid? And I think that's in the discussions that have been had in the past, that's what's leading up to hiring this consultant to help us with that.
Madam Mayor.
Follow.
I hear what you're saying, and it sounds to me like this consultant is going to ask the questions that maybe we would not ask, or explore things that we would not think of. Then how do we know we're getting the right consultant to ask the questions? Do you see what I'm saying? How are we going to know if we're hiring the right individual or group if we don't even know what the questions and the potential? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Vice Mayor, the process of selecting a consultant is based on their qualifications and what they've done for other, there's a whole list of things when we go out to hire professionals, consultants, whether it's the engineers or in this case a specialty field, you look at their qualifications and what they've done in other places, and you get to make the determination of choosing the one with the best credentials. And that's a process we have to go through.
Madam Mayor?
Um,
And
Commissioner Morrison.
he can carry on.
Sure.
I'll wait, yeah.
Well, I guess my question is, being that this consultant has helped us trying to figure out what direction we want to go in, as regards to, a few things, why would we, I guess, hire this consultant before we've got a director in place?
Yeah.
Was my question as well.
Madam Mayor, the consultant process is something that we're timing concurrently with this. The electric utility director should be on board before this group starts or is selected. That's our goal.
I'm so,
Follow up.
so you're saying that the director should be in place before we have selected the consultants that we're,
Most likely at this rate before we go through the selection process.
okay. And is the director going to have a hand in us, in our selection of the consultants who we're going to use?
That would be my direction.
That would be the idea?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Amoroso?
And that's what I was gonna say, as much as I think we need to move forward quickly, and we've been waiting for this, at this point, we're getting ready to hire a new director, and, I'm the first one, I don't wanna hire his assistant, I don't want to hire his staff, I want him or her to do that. Yes, we need to move forward. I thank you for the process, and please have the process ready to go, but don't start it until that director gets on board, and that is in the best interest of what the director wants to do. Last thing I want to do is spend money and do something, and that director has a whole different idea of what needs to be done.
We've seen that before.
Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Robinson?
And my question was the same, but I was whether during the interview processes, the RFQ has been mentioned, the consultant, knowing that we're going to go out for a consultant.
City Manager?
To the new candidates, they all got that information.
Madam Mayor, the interview process is pretty thorough, and we cover a lot of the outstanding items on this list. So the answer is yes.
Commissioner Hardy?
I don't know who's best prepared to answer this. Maybe it's a little bit of both. From Madam Chair and from Mr. City Manager. But if either of you could, I guess, discuss in detail the impetus for us trying to figure out what our business model is, and I think it centers around us repowering.
If I may, that's a great question.
Okay.
And I apologize because I should have prefaced this slide with kind of the thinking of the board and the thought process behind the business plan. One of the things that we are efforting to bring forward to you is a vision statement and a mission. And in general, the goal, as we've discussed, is to have really a model city which has sustainable sources of energy that are diverse and that are in keeping with concerns about climate change and are green and et cetera, et cetera. And we've already gone light years ahead of other cities with our solar farm, the possibility of having our wave field, and with the research scientists that are involved with that, all renewable sources of energy. So we believe that we could be a laboratory, really, globally, for what it looks like in this day and age to generate power and for communities. And so we've really taken on a rather audacious goal, and we think that the city can, in fact, reflect those kinds of goals, and we already are. So a business plan and bringing on board a consultant will help us look across all of those levels, if you will, of possibilities, and bring expertise to the table, which could include maybe sources we haven't thought of yet. All in the goal of what is our need in terms of energy demand, how can we best meet it, and what are the most sustainable sources and cost-effective sources to do that. So in a nutshell, that's the business plan. And we think that having that outside look will support the current staff and the whoever we bring on board in having that perspective. So does that answer your question?
Well, I guess I got from your original statement that the business plan was a response to our decision to repower the utility.
It's much
And-
more, as a practical matter, the current plant that we have, I refer to her as Big Bertha, is 50, 60 years old. They don't even make parts anymore for the generators
We call
that
it
we
the
have.
Museum of History
Yeah.
of Power Generation. So
With a heat rate of, it's off the chart. And so we know no matter where we go for power, whether it's to the grid out there with OUC, and we continue to do that in perpetuity, whether we have a massive solar farm, whether we have a PACE program or residence or net metering, whether we have wave action that's going to create half of our utility needs, whatever it is, it's going to be necessary to upgrade the plant. We cannot provide power without doing that. But all of those different sources and inputs, without a plan, you'll be doing things that you may then have to undo because now you want to go over here and do this. We want to try to avoid that. We want to have a well thought out approach. We want to understand what our possibilities are and then plan for the future. So that's what the business plan is geared to help us do.
Do it once, do it right.
Yes.
Madam
Vice
Mayor.
Mayor?
Thank you. So let me try to wrap all this together. A comment was made that perhaps we would prefer that the RFQ not hit the street until the director is in place. So the question I have for the city manager and for you is, if these interviews go well, when do we expect the new utility director in place? That's the first question. And the second question is, by delaying putting has the RFQ actually been crafted yet?
It's in the final craft.
Okay,
we haven't put it out yet. We can.
so it's almost ready to put on the street. So when, I guess I'm trying to figure out, as you recall, there was a Gantt chart back in the day laid out for all of us to see. I'm sure a lot of that is obsolete information now. But where are we? Is this going to, a delay of putting this on the street, does this cause a material delay in decisions that have to be made or opinions that have to be?
I think there is a level of urgency, but I don't know, board members, do you have any opinions about that? Peggy?
I don't have an opinion, but I have a question, I guess, for the city manager. Approximately a year ago, our board was introduced to John Ragone, who was presented as a business plan developer hired by Jack Borsch. So I'm confused.
Mr. Ragone was hired originally, and if you remember the discussions we had, is we didn't know how to craft the RFQ to some of your points here, so that we wouldn't miss something in the RFP to go out to select the firm, and he was going to help us craft that RFQ and carry us through the process on the selection of the consultants. As you recall, we had some consultant issues and selection issues when we went to go out for the power contracts, and we didn't want to make the same mistakes. So Mr. Ragone's charge was to walk us through this process so we didn't miss something in the selection of the firm that was actually going to do the consulting work.
Commissioner Marceau?
Did that happen? Is he still employed with us?
Yes, he's in, and that's where we were getting the finalized product for Mr. Ragone. We're picking up where the former director left off.
What is his actual job title? He works for us, or
No,
is
he's
he
a consultant. It's a consultant.
Okay, so he is just here to do that.
To help us go through the process to make sure we get the best consultant to do the business model.
Okay, and then once that's done, he's gone?
Correct.
Okay.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. And to tie this all up, I guess my final question is, will there be a new Gantt chart created based on where we are at this present time and what you know going into the future, so we can kind of reboot, if you will, the timeline of events and anticipations of certain things that need to occur?
If that's something that the commission would like, I'm certain that the board would be more than happy to work on that and provide that to the commission.
And I'll tell you, I obviously don't have the technical skills to carry on a big conversation with you guys on any aspect of the things you're looking into. But I will tell you this, you mentioned earlier Big Bertha, and we can't get parts for Big Bertha because they don't make them anymore. We've been aware of that now for several years, and several years ago, we were told that we're just a few years left, if you will, with the possible availability of parts. So while I haven't been keeping up with the Gantt chart, I do have a sense of time, and I have to believe that we are very close, if not past the point of no return as far as parts are concerned on the power plant. So I'm getting a little fidgety to kind of understand where we're going with this.
Well, let's move on with the presentation and we'll see some of that, I think.
Okay.
Okay, as you know, we have a contract with OUC. We have exercised our options to extend that contract. And now we are through those essentially options and need to, before our effective contract runs out, which I believe is
December 31st.
2018.
2018, we need to have an RFP on the street and advertise for our purchase power. Because whatever we do and whatever we decide ultimately with the plant and how we're going to ultimately power our city, we still have to purchase power from the grid in the interim until that's complete. So an RFP will need to go out for that. The expected date for that advertisement,
It's also beginning of July.
and then I'm not sure why the current OUC purchase power contract is mentioned there. Walt, is there something specific?
Just to get the update, that December 31st,
Oh, okay.
the 2018 is when that last extension runs out.
Yes.
One of the concerns we had last time around when it was time to renew was that what were the rates going to look like at that time? And one of the reasons why we added the extensions, the ability to extend, was to try to keep that low rate, because at the time in which we negotiated that, it was extremely low in comparison to the open market at that time. I mean, the majority of the open market. So where does it look like now, and is there any way to piggyback our current numbers with OUC, or we
Yeah.
to keep it down, because it obviously has changed since then?
I think, and board members, please chime in. I, as one board member, am deeply concerned about what's happening in the market. We don't have a choice. We have to contractually now go out to the open market. And, that'll be an RFP process. And the last time we went through this exercise, it was less than a happy experience. We're hoping to have learned from those lessons so that this RFP will be tailored much more specifically for the city, and it will be a very clear process. That is what we are going for. But nonetheless, there are some issues with going out, which I'm sure we will encounter again. First and foremost is power companies not wanting to share their pricing, which makes the process of having everything be open and transparent a very difficult endeavor. But we will attempt to do that to the extent that it's legally permissible and possible. And we will work very diligently to help the commission get the very best rate that is possible out there.
I remember we had the redacted amount, remember on the
Yes.
last go-around?
Yep.
And then we went in, we thought we were at the bottom, and then they went back with the best and final. And everything changed at that point. I remember that. We actually got a pretty good deal.
Yep.
That's why I'm concerned at this time around. Commissioner Hardy?
Yes, Lisa, Madam Chair.
Lisa's fine.
Would you mind elaborating on that one particular challenge about power companies not wanting to share their pricing information?
Yes, Commissioner. One of the restraints that we saw in the bid proposals, almost across the board, if I recall, is that The power companies did not want to make public, and under Florida Sunshine Law, everything becomes a public record as soon as it basically gets out of this narrow parameter that they can operate in. And they did not want their competitors to know what they were charging for power or offering to sell their power for.
And that's
So-
a legal part of the, that's a legal part of the process when you're bidding.
So, how does this dance work?
Well, so what we all had to do was kind of go in it was like the FBI. You had to, you had to pass the document, you had to sit and read it, you couldn't write anything down, you had to leave it there and hope your memory was basically good enough to retain the numbers. But we couldn't distribute or disseminate
Or
talk about their responses.
A box of silence.
And I think we're still bound.
We are
To this
still bound.
day, I don't think we can talk about what is in that response.
So who gets to see the pricing information?
We do.
You do,
We
and
do.
we do.
So we do, but the public is not
No.
privy
No,
to this information.
not until there's a selection.
That would be an interesting topic for some people in Tallahassee to take up.
No, that's, believe it or not, that's part of their processes there too. It's just a part of the negotiation process.
That seems,
Commissioner Robinson?
I have probably a stupid question, but the RFQ, are we intending to look at the possibility of us creating cheaper energy than what we can buy?
We are, as part of the work product, and we'll get into this in a little bit, is to make a determination ultimately, do we want to be self-contained? That is probably one of the most important decisions you will ever make sitting on this dais, from my vantage point. It'll be a 50-year decision, at
And the
least.
consultant is going to be able to tell us that the economy of scales is
We are determined to get you the best possible advice so that you can make an informed decision. But I can tell you that it is a very highly technical and difficult decision to make. We can become an island.
but that's what we're paying the consultant to
Help
give us
us,
that
help
highly
us,
technical
yes, and ultimately
answer.
help you decide.
Answer.
You'll
Their
have
advice.
parameters, but knowing the future is impossible. And so you will have information provided to you, which will hopefully help you feel confident in the decision that you will make. But ultimately, whether you decide to take our current plant, this is an option, and completely innovate, renovate, and bring it up to the highest technology available today. And with that combined with other renewable sources can meet our entire load. That's a big thing to take on. Or you can continue to buy power off of the open grid in perpetuity, and you can upgrade the plant to the point where we don't have to lay awake at night wondering whether Big Bertha is gonna tank.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, please.
So the asset of distribution enters into the cost of the consumer, right? I mean, one of our, we have this old plant and we have a distribution center.
Yes.
And the importance of both is going to be part of the decision, I guess. I mean, we're not talking about a distribution center at the distribution system. We're only talking about the generation.
Yes, we're only talking about generation at this point.
Well, but isn't somewhere the distribution
Well, we're
part
going to
of
get
it?
to that. We're going to get to that.
Tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The entire network must be part and parcel of that. But in terms of this conversation for purchasing and acquiring and creating and generating power, that is the plant. And to what extent, if you tell us we want to be fully independent, so that if terrorists attack Florida Power and Light, we're still sitting here. We're the only place around. between Key West and Vero that actually has power, if that's what you tell us you want to do, then there'll be a plan and a program to do that. If what you want to do is to use resources in other places, you want the plant to be modernized to the point where it's reliable and dependable, but continue to purchase power on the open market, that's a different plan.
I think it's important that as we go into renewables, you know, when we talk about our solar farm and then increasing the megawatts of power there, I mean, obviously, we know we're not reinventing the wheel when it comes to power production. And FP&L, look at what they're doing in solar right now. They scooped us on that stupid story the day of our launching of, right? Did you notice that? And we're talking about the ocean current technology and things that could happen. These are futuristic ideas, like it sounds like, but just think back when we were looking at the possibility of selling to FP&L. For those who weren't here for the history of that and watching Vero Beach, poor city, go through all of that crazy that they're still going through, I think, to this day, trying to get out of that contract. Well, they sold, but they
have a letter. We'll address that.
Okay. So anyway, these are some of the discussions that we have. We'll have to look at all of them. That's for sure. I think that knowing how much energy can be, you mentioned the PACE program before earlier. We need to talk about that as a group together too, to see how much energy we could actually provide from residential or commercial businesses in this community that could contribute to the grid as well. I think that would be an interesting to see. Again, that's owner purchased, so it's not something the city would do, but again, it could be a major supplier of it. With renewable energy, I think we have a great opportunity to be a leader. And again, what we're doing isn't anything different than other utilities are doing elsewhere. So I mean, I think looking at all the different options will be interesting. I learned a lot the last time around, so I'm interested in learning a lot more. My mindset changed as I learned. Walt will tell you, being a green pea from the beginning and then learning so much about it, and then we'll be sitting here today unveiling our solar farm and talking with this MOU with Florida Atlantic is a very exciting time. So we've got a good decision to make, but I think we can make it.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Excuse me. Well, can you make like 10 copies of these and bring, because the UF board does not have them and the public doesn't have them. Can you? Herman's missing one.
I thought I'd be looking at it up here, so.
You know, I like to look at it and make notes on it. I don't know about the rest of you, but.
The consultant, are they gonna look into the subsidies, I want to call them subsidies that FP&L gets? Are we gonna be able to hope for, if we want to be more independent, like an FP&L, to get money from the state?
You mean for like energy efficient appliances and
No,
things like?
well, or energy efficient turbine, generator.
Yes,
FP&L gets some help.
yes, they do. They're also under a different regulatory structure than we are. But your point is well taken, Commissioner, because there's no reason why municipal utilities cannot have the same advantages that the state offers to the private providers, and so.
And then the disadvantage would be, we would be regulated to some extent the same way that they're regulated. But we would also be able to ask for help.
Yes. I think the most exciting part of this, to me,
Because you're such friends.
is this city owns assets that includes every possible source of energy available. It's really extraordinary when you think about it.
As diverse as our city.
Exactly. I mean, we own a portion of a nuclear power plant, which helps supply some of our energy. We own a portion of a coal-fired plant, which helps support some of our energy. We purchase power over the grid. We have a natural gas line. We have a solar farm. We may have a wave farm and activities there. We may have wind. So there's really, it's extraordinary that we have all of those assets to capitalize on. The best way to do that is what we're looking to find out. That's our goal and our mission, especially through the business plan, is to determine what is the best way to capitalize on all of these extraordinary assets and really be a leader in providing energy.
You just said everything that I just mumbled all that about. It was the summation of what I just said.
Oh.
Thank you for clarifying that for me. And everyone else. Vice Mayor? Commissioner Hardy?
I guess it's somewhat in line with what Herman says. I understand that a lot of the help that FP&L gets from both the federal government and from the state really comes through, trying to help them improve their tax position, which we do not have, being as we're a local government. But I'd be interested to see, and especially as we go through and solidify our business plan, I would be really interested to see what we could get in the way of help from the state and potentially also from the federal government for the choices that we've made in terms of how we've decided to generate energy here in Lake Worth. I would like to see that effort made. Certainly.
Want to continue on? Because I think you got some good stuff in there.
We talked about this. So one of the things that you recently decided to do, and this goes to Commissioner Robinson's question about the distribution system, we are in the process of finally expending the bond that was approved by the residents back in 2008.
Or not.
This time.
And so we were surprised as a board that there were dollars and resources that were not expended and out there and available to, and we had a great need in terms of making sure our distribution system provided the kind of stability and predictability that people want to see without all these blackouts and rolling blackouts and outages and all the things that we were experiencing in the past. So we put a great deal of resources into upgrading the distribution system. You've seen things come before you this year to replace the poles. You've seen things come before you this year to improve and replace some of the outdated transformers. And now this phase is really taking the entire city onto the same level, essentially, of voltage carriage. So this is a 26 kV conversion. Some of the cities on 4 kV, some of the cities on 13.2.
26.4.
Yeah. And so this is going to, what this means is essentially that our energy losses, which, it really pains me to waste electricity when we're buying it off the grid. It contributes to our need for peak power and loads, and to have energy losses like we were having on a 4 kV system is, to me, unconscionable. So this will help. We will save money, which can go back into the rate structures. We will have a much more efficient system and reliable system when we go to, in the future, purchase parts and have replacement. We don't have one system over here for parts and one system over there for parts that's different. So this really helps us in terms of efficiency and bringing our distribution system up to speed. So we have a long-range plan for that, which is really a shorter, it's certainly not a 10-year plan. We will have this done, I believe, in 3 years?
It's 3 to 5 year bipolar.
No, 3 years. He says 5, I say 3. We keep on it.
Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Amoruso?
So have we started the 26 kV conversion?
I believe so.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's within the 3-year, we're gonna switch what over to 26?
The entire system.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. And that's a 3-year plan? 3 to 5, but we're pushing for 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Speed is of the essence.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the
Tell
staff
me
knows
about
it.
it.
Madam Mayor,
Vice Mayor?
would a tie line be part of this?
That's
Is
a
that
part of the
bus-
presentation.
I was looking through that, I didn't see it, I didn't really see that. Is that later in the presentation?
It's a very good question. No, I don't believe the tie line is included in, there may be some improvements to the existing tie line that needed to be done, but a second tie line is not part of the equation as of yet. It should be, but it's not.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
it's not in the current plan. It's something we've been talking about.
Did I,
Vice Mayor?
did I just step on something here?
Nope.
Okay.
It's a reliability factor, if I may, Madam Mayor. It's simply a reliability concern. We only have one tie line, and when we're dependent on having energy provided to us from outside of that tie line, then it becomes critical, particularly during the summer months. We can, for periods of time, become an island now. But again, back to Big Bertha, that's a rather terrifying kind of experience.
Weren't we given the advice of the utility director at the time that we needed to explore the second tie line immediately because
Yeah.
of the age of the
Yes.
unit?
Yes.
Okay, so
Why
why
aren't we
isn't,
doing that?
why isn't that as urgent as us talking about the next purchase power agreement and or plan?
I would agree with you. It's something we need to.
Yesterday.
Yes, and that's part of the discussion I think we wanted to have with you. When the bonds were originally issued in
1986,
originally, there were several loans that went forward. The tie line's been talked about since then.
Wasn't it, how much is in there, 14 million?
14.8 million.
Oh, is that
It's
good
just
memory
about to
or
go
what?
over, Madam Mayor, the numbers.
Okay, I'm sorry. Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, so what's keeping us from addressing this issue yesterday?
Just time and money, and we have money.
Well, we have money.
We have the money.
I mean, so
Well-
we have money, yeah.
I'm not sure we do have the money, at least not allocated for a second tie line. My understanding from and again, this is from the previous utility director, so, he's not here to answer this, but my understanding is that we would have to require right-of-way in order to accomplish that, to tie in to a secondary location. There are issues with FP&L and gaining approval for that. And then there is the cost and expense of the
Can that-
timeline
Can that
itself.
type of expense be included in the bonds that we already have for distribution?
Yeah.
Yes.
Legally and whatnot? No.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so I would suggest, and what I'm hearing from the commission right now is to start that investigation of that process yesterday.
Yeah.
And go for whatever, so the tie line is not within the city limits. It's outside, obviously, the city limits.
We would have to extend from our plant outside of the city
City
limits.
Okay.
Yes.
So whatever we need to do, whoever we need to contact, FP&L, whomever, let's do it, because that has been sort of like one of those things held over our head, especially every hurricane season. It's one of those things that makes us crazy, and the older that unit gets, the more scared I am. Commissioner Moroso?
So, just so we have it clear, we're directing to do this, however, is the money there? You
That was the first
said
question I
it's
asked.
not allocated.
No.
Is there extra money there within that bond to do this?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Commissioner, the current long-range plan / 26 kV, which was the policy direction we got from y'all to move to that, included a budget that expended the entire amount on the 26 conversion. The money,
But did we do that?
well, it's just now starting, so.
Okay.
Remember, y'all earlier this year gave us the go-ahead to do that. The follow-up discussion is, do you want to do this project with the tie line? And it would be taken off the backside of that 14 million, basically, is where we would recommend it would come from. So we would have to go back and assess of the remaining money out of the 14 million, what wouldn't be done in the 26 conversion. And as that gets designed further along, we'll be able to answer that question better.
Ms.
Madam
Fisher,
Mayor?
did you have something? I'm sorry.
I just said if we're gonna have a new director in 2 months, then I think that the director should be looped in
Yes.
and give you all his or her, probably his, opinion of what you should do.
Agreed.
I totally agree. I just want to make sure that we know that we're putting this out there, that it's an important matter, just as important as these other moving parts, and that we should, as we head into another hurricane season, should be thinking about that. You got a follow-up, Commissioner Marcel?
Yeah, and I just wanted to make it clear that I don't know that we want to change the direction of the 26 kV. We just, if there's, a lot of times things run over, they run under, you know, if we're running under and we have some funds left, what does it look like? What does it look like from, you know, I know you have different line items that you want to focus on, maybe add this as a line item. What does it look to hire a consultant to look at getting the right of ways? What do we have to buy something from FP&L? Is it a give? Is it a swap? What does that look like, and what does the final number look like? And then I personally don't want to, you know, cut back on changing because we've already had a clear direction from our last director that this needs to be done. This is what we're doing. I don't want to cut back on that.
Me too.
Well,
City
Madam
Manager?
Mayor, if I may, this is a perfect example of the calculus that's necessary for the business plan. And
Absolutely.
let me explain, because let's say, for the sake of argument, that the commission decides we want to be independent. We want to be our own grandpa. The second tie line becomes really unnecessary.
Okay.
And so you may decide, we don't want to expend, you know, expending the money for the second tie line or getting an extra generator, you know, that has a heat rate of next to nothing, which, you know, et cetera, to the plant. That's the calculus we want you to be able to make.
And with the business plan, that will give all the
That's
options.
the goal.
Okay.
Commissioner Hardy?
Andy asked my questions and expressed my sentiments.
Commissioner Robinson?
I'm glad that you said that, because you keep talking about an island. And are you talking about an island with power or without power? And the island with power is dependent on the second tie line in the event of the storm, because that's the right now we get all our energy from one tie line, and that's works. And there's no, other than a hurricane, there's no reason for a second tie line. Is that correct?
Well, if for example, you were to make a decision that for the next 10, 20 years, you were just going to buy power in the open grid. You were going to upgrade the plant to the point where we didn't have to lay awake at night wondering if Bertha was going to breathe her last breath. But you weren't going to become independent, per se. Then the second tie line becomes an imperative, because if you're going to buy power in the open grid and you only have one tie line and we have a hurricane, then that. But if you decide we're going to be independent and be able to provide our own needs, the second tie line is less.
If we have a hurricane and it takes out tie lines, how's our distribution system going to look? I mean, seriously,
actually
if the
fine.
roof is gone, the ceilings are in trouble.
Well, but
and-
no, Commissioner, because that the tie line is actually the tie line to the outside world.
That's correct. But you're basing it on a hurricane. Is that the reason, the only reason that I am getting that we would look for a second tie line?
It's because if the tie line went down in a hurricane, then
Yes,
there's
one-
no way for power to come into the city.
I understand that.
Yes. And then there's no way for us to distribute it.
That would be an insurance company's interest. If they're going to ensure that we get electricity, and they're going to tell us that if one tie line goes down, the second tie line is up, but our distribution system is up too.
So we'd have to get it back up really fast.
That's my point, is that are we investing in something on a more hypothetical than our distribution system that is for real and that we're responsible for, and is more in danger of damage than a tie line?
I want to
I
throw.
want to invest, what I'm saying is I want to invest more in our distribution system if we're tight on money than on a second tie line.
Here's the one thing that everyone's missing in this whole factor. How long do you think it takes to make a decision, contract, RFQs, RFPs, bring people in, build a new plant.
2 years,
Go,
and that's what we've got.
That's it. No, you're looking at least 5 years. If not, that's actually ambitious. 5 years. So everything that we're talking about right now is not immediate. We're talking about Big Bertha lasting another 5 to 10 years by the time whatever we decide on actually happens and gets completed. Yeah, Commissioner Hardy?
May I ask, and this
Keep
kind
that in
of
mind in your thinking.
speaks to the business plan, but I'm just trying to figure out how to understand this at this time. If we decide essentially to become a retailer of power, what is the point of having a facility with which we generate power? Yeah, I mean, like, what's the point of keeping Bertha or investing in Bertha any further if we choose to go the direction of just buying power from some outside provider and selling it again to our customers?
Because
here?
we're required under, it may be state, but probably federal regulations as well, that we have to have some internal capacity.
Okay.
We actually have to get Big
Some.
Bertha up and running. What is it, once a month, once a
month.
quarter?
We test once a month.
And actually send power out to the grid. That's emergency management. It's a requirement. So we have to have some capacity to generate power.
And as a follow-up, I guess this capacity that we're required by regulators to have, it must not be intermittent capacity in terms of its source, like it has to be.
It has to be reliable. It has to be able to.
So it can't be based on wind, solar,
I don't
Gulf
think so.
Stream.
It's a
Okay.
good question, but
Okay.
you know, I don't think so. I
Walt,
think because
do you
it's
know the answer?
emergency, so it has to be.
Okay.
We're required to maintain.
Can you get on
capacity
a
that-
microphone, please?
Madam Mayor, for the record, Walt Gill, Assistant Director of Electric. We are required to maintain enough capacity to support our native load. We run less than 5% a year right now because of the situation we're in, purchasing power from the St. Lucie plants, the new plant, and the OUC purchase power contract. However, in the event of a situation where that tie line goes down, we have to be able to bring them plants back, bring them plants online and support our native load until the tie line once again is reestablished.
City
If-
Manager.
if we
Also,
have-
Caroline, you had something you wanted to say a while back.
I was just, about the second timeline, what we didn't talk about is we can also sell.
Thank you.
If we're generating, we
That's
can
right.
sell on the open market and make money.
Right, okay, good. City Manager?
The other thing to remember about having a power plant is where we're located on this peninsula, the permit for a power plant has a tremendous amount of value from what I understand. So siting a new power plant in this area or having a existing permit that's active that allows you to reconstruct or build a new power plant of some capacity has value to us and potentially to other power generators. And that also provides you some flexibility of options.
Madam Mayor?
Mhm.
Can you go into the factors that give such a permit value?
Government regulation and trying to get a new one. The amount of time, effort, and money to site a new power plant.
Mhm.
If you own one of those, it's kind of akin to owning a liquor license in a dry place. So it has, beyond the equipment there, that permit has a tremendous amount of value to us and provides you as the owners a tremendous amount of flexibility in using it for whatever purposes, in negotiating for a unit that would sell on the grid or sharing it with somebody that's in the business that may not be us. It gives you a lot of options and flexibility in negotiating good deals.
Okay, so this, I'm sorry. So this is essentially, again, going back to the question of, what our business model is going to be in the future, whether or not we're just going to, retail power, whether, we want to generate it for ourselves, and whether, insofar as we develop our capacity to generate power in a way that makes us comfortable, that we don't have to stay up at night, we could potentially partner with other people and monetize some of these assets in ways that we haven't previously. Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Okay, so this is, I'm sorry, so this is going beyond just the ability to provide services to our residents essentially at this point?
Could.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, and a lot of that gets back to the cost of the electrons we end up selling to our own customer base. You know, if we're savvy about how we approach the business plan and we offset those costs or subsidize those costs through selling electricity potentially to other people in the market, on the grid, or other providers that maybe in peak hours need electricity, if we get the right kind of input from the experts in the field that says, in this location, in this market, you need these kinds of units, and here's the market you're going to operate in, and then we work out the deals with the other companies, and we become a player, so to speak, on the grid. That may be possible. And that's,
OUC, look at OUC, they're a municipally owned power agency, and we're purchasing power from their municipal
from them.
energy. We have the ability
We-
then
and
to
Madam
do
Mayor,
the same and bid
we
on
own,
projects like we're asking for right now.
and conversely, we own in partnership through FMPA capacity at a St. Lucie nuclear plant run by FPNL. So there's lots of electrons going in all directions.
Public?
Yeah, if I can just stick out a position, I guess, at this time. If we decide to do things that go beyond our ability to just provide services to our residents, I would like to see any kind of money that we make off of, any deal like that, go really towards rate decreases, both for residential and commercial users. Just, before you even have the discussion, I just want to put that
That's
idea
always
out
been
there.
our discussion.
That's
Yeah.
how we've been getting the rates down. I
And-
think there was like a $45 difference or something like that. I forget what the numbers were between a Lake Worth utility bill and an FP&L bill back 6 years ago before we created the ordinance. And what was it, like 35% difference, 47% difference? It was incredible. And now here in our next budget cycle, you saw we're gonna be maybe even cheaper. So we know the rates have to stay down. We've got some more presentation. Let's get through. That's the only reason why sometimes I don't like to stop in between each one, because we end up talking about stuff that's coming up.
This is just the math the city manager went through with respect to the bond. The bond amount at 23.88 million. The bond balance now at 14.89, because there have been some expenditures of 8.98. The next slide should walk you through some of what those were. System operations, infrastructure, and OMS upgrades, the boiler, the transfer replacement, the 138 kV breaker. These were, and the conversion, all combined to fully expend the bond, which I think is what the residents wanted us to do back in 1995. So, we're doing it.
Oh, I'm so glad we're getting to that. Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Morris.
when is the work estimated to be done? All that work on that page?
Most of the work on the page is already done.
That work is already completed.
Just the 26 kV, isn't it?
Correct.
Right.
26 kV is the only thing that's outstanding. And when are we looking at a completion for that?
3 years.
3 years,
3 to 5.
not 5 years, 3 years.
3 to 5.
3 years.
Okay.
3 to 5, but I'm pushing for 3.
Commissioner Hardy?
Madam Mayor, I just want to be clear, the first 5 bullet points here is what took us the $8.98 million.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Madam Mayor,
City Manager?
Walt, most of those items previously, they were done prior to what year?
The system operations infrastructure and OMS upgrades, that happened in 2004. S5 boiler and power plant 2 maintenance, I do believe that was in 2002 or maybe 2003 timeframe. The slide went away.
So just so you can get an
138
idea,
kV.
this is money that's been spent along as they've gone, as staff has been churned over and commissions have come and gone. So it's over.
The 138 kV breaker replacements, that was actually 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
SCADA system upgrades, going, those are constantly ever evolving with the technology upgrades. And then the 26.4 kV conversion, that actually started in 2002. And we approached it, I think the December meeting when we instituted going back to the 26 and finishing out the entire system of the 26.
There is actually a spreadsheet which documents all this, which we can provide to you.
That would be great. Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
So the second tie line is gonna cost how much? We don't know.
About $2 million.
Ballpark,
In the original bonds, and Mike actually didn't want me reading all that stuff, but I did.
He did read it all.
In the original bond back in 1992, it was estimated to cost $2 million. With inflation right now ongoing, and just the world evolving and everything, I'm estimating at a $4 million project to just complete a second timeline.
Are you
But I
kidding
don't
me?
think-
Come on, when time goes on, it's like electronics, they go down in value, aren't they supposed to?
I don't think that included the cost of acquiring the right of way if
Right.
necessary, the permitting. Yeah, I've been told two different numbers by past utility directors, and they've ranged from $15 million to $20 million.
Oh,
Say what?
Jeez.
Commissioner Robinson, did you have a follow-up?
I'm just trying to get from 2 to 15 now. Holy smokes.
Get up off the floor. No, I'm kidding.
Because I thought we had 8 to work with, but I guess not.
Commissioner Amoruso?
I don't see the substations and the relocation and the upgrades to substations that has been done. Has that already been done, and was that in this plan, or was it something separate?
Capital improvement, was that capital?
Are you talking about what has been done before 11th Avenue substation?
The substations, the transfer stations, we moved one, we upgraded. Was that not in here, or was that in regular maintenance?
That's in regular maintenance right there. The 26, the whole plan for the whole 26 conversion takes that whole global where we're gonna move substations and combine substations and throw in the transfer switches and the regulators and voltage regulation and stuff like that. Basically, making a completely redundant system.
Well, I knew that we had to relocate substations and things in order to make so we've already done the substations to accommodate the 26 kV, or are we still doing some of those?
We're still doing all that, yes.
Okay.
And a quick question, reselling, Carolyn, you mentioned reselling out. Is the second tie line necessary to do that, or can we do out and in with?
I think it depends on the whole business plan.
Oh,
We need a microphone for you. Sorry.
Being with the city for 20 years, I was actually from when I first hired on in '97.
You know where the bodies are buried.
I know where Hoff is at. So, in '97, we were actually on the market. We ran our plant 24/7 for our base load, and then we would sell against the market and the gas prices out onto the grid for what we could get. In October, at midnight, September 30th, 2002, we got out of the game because of the age of the units. At that time, the age of the units was 25 years old. And running them 24/7 wouldn't have made economical sense or reliability sense, which is why we got into the purchase power game at that point. Going back out, we only had the one tie line back then when we were buying and selling out. Depending on the business model and whatever the recommendations are from the consultants and everything, depending on how big you build that plant, absolutely you could use a second tie line. Is it necessary? No, it just depends the size on and how much you're going to be pushing back out over the grid.
So the answer is yes.
that's all.
All right, let's go on with this presentation. How about that? How about that?
The Siemens Solar Field project update. This is city initiated as well as utility initiated, and I think it's just a tremendously successful project. So in addition to the solar field, as you know, the streetlight replacement program has been completed. Was the meter replacement part of the Siemens? Yeah, I think it was.
Yes.
So we've replaced the meters, have a much more, some of them were 60-year-old meters. And it was,
Mine was.
So,
Is Wi-Fi part of the system?
No.
no, I don't think so.
Something the CRA is working.
So
One at a time, guys.
we've had a ribbon cutting at our solar field, and we are looking at ways to expand it and to improve upon it. And we will continue that as part of our work product.
Is it up and running yet?
No,
Estimate? Of when?
End of the month. End of the month, I am expecting a big megawatt.
The end of June.
Yes, sir.
4th of July.
Fireworks.
Yeah, no
Roger's
fireworks.
determined
No,
for the
let's
Matt-
hope there are no fireworks.
Madam Mayor,
City
Walt,
manager.
we haven't received ownership yet from from Siemens yet on any of the items.
The only thing that we have received,
I know.
Why don't you say the staff table?
The only piece of the entire Siemens project consisted of four different categories. One was the building upgrades, going in and replacing the HVACs, low flow sewer system and everything like that. That part of the FEM has been closed out and has been accepted. The LED lights are in the final. Everything's done on the LED lights. We've done substantial completion on that one. We're just waiting for the final punch list to be completed. AMI infrastructure and AMI meters we're expecting mid-July to have that one substantially completed and closed out. And then the solar field, the actual build out of the solar field is substantially completed, but we have not accepted ownership yet until the connection point is made to the grid.
Madam Mayor,
Commissioner Amoruso?
tell me, so we're close to the lights. So does that mean we can't add any more?
If you have places you want me to add lights, by all means, get a hold of me and we'll
And
add the
then
lights.
what about City Hall and the downtown plaza?
Those were missed in the original scope of the Siemens project, and we actually have bids, getting ready to go out with bids to replace around City Hall, Triangle Park, and the Cultural
And
Plaza.
how are we paying for that?
That will come out of operational budget.
Okay.
Okay. Shall we continue?
Board members, anything else you want to add on the Siemens project?
Hey,
This is a very exciting potential endeavor. I think this is the city manager's genius. Mike, do you want to talk about how this came about?
I believe most everybody's familiar with the SEMREC project. It was interesting when we got into the solar. And a matter of fact, Walt had talked about this many years ago, and we joked around about power from the ocean currents, but made a call to the folks at FAU and said, well, we're getting into renewables. And Mayor, we had talked about it as well. Let's call them and see if we can get a unit. And that's when we started the relationship. We've now since entered into an MOU, and we had applied for $400,000 grants, both SEMREC at FAU and the city. They were applying to engineer and design the system for where the test module was going to be 3 miles offshore, and we were going to use that money to start the process to pull a cable to examine going under the beach through the old unused sewer line. So with that said, we didn't get our grant, and we're looking at other funding mechanisms.
Get
and how
another
we can work.
blessing from Tallahassee this year.
Yes, another blessing. But eventually our goal is to figure out a way to try to hook up to their test site 3 miles offshore, and had a great meeting through this process with 8 of the firms who are interested in coming here to test.
We spoke with scientists in Bavaria, Sweden, across in California and Canada.
As far away as Gainesville.
As far away as Gainesville. But what was so interesting is that, being at the Department of Energy in Washington 6 years ago or 5 years ago, and talking about solar, and then this year finally, launching our first solar. Think about it. 2 environmental scars in our city. One is that old sewer waste line, if you think about it. Most cities got rid of them. And one of the biggest disadvantages for Florida Atlantic and the scientists is that nobody's been able to build the docking station in the middle of the ocean because no municipality wants to dredge cable lines for power over their beautiful beaches and residential areas, waterfront communities. We still have environmental scar number 2, the old sewer lines, and here we're able to possibly run the conduit through those sewer lines out there so that these scientists that we spoke with and had this great conference with, they can come here and actually test their concept in the middle of the ocean, have the power to do it, and we as an electric utility can purchase that power, those dirty little electrons, and turn it into power, which is just so unbelievable. And that's one of the benefits of having your own electric utility, being able to do that and subsidize our grid with that. But talking about that again in Washington a few years back, and now having the conversation in the MOU with Florida Atlantic. So I'm so excited about it too. It's
Well,
just-
and Madam Mayor, to your point, our solar farm is on our old landfill.
That's what I meant.
It's
That
been
was environmental scar
reclaimed.
number 2.
Yeah.
So we've taken 2 eyesores, right, or 2 environmental scars, and turned them into renewables, which is, I think, amazing, and makes me so proud.
And Madam Mayor, just to go the step further, always trying to look for a 2-fer or a 3-fer on something good, besides having a renewable energy source that would run 24 hours a day, like nuclear energy. We're trying to come up on the backside with the incentives and the ability to get these companies to come here and test. And as part of that relationship, they would locate here.
The Park of Commerce.
And then bring their manufacturing facilities, hopefully. So not only are we looking to be a part of the testing and proof of concept where they would come out and we would actually show their business plan works on a scale model where we'd buy those electrons, they potentially could be the place where they're manufacturing, and then long term, a production field could be offshore. And those electrons would pass through us to the grid, and that gets back into the business plan discussion of, selling those renewable energy electrons on the open market has a value. It has a brand, and our facilities need to be able to think about addressing how to get them from there to there.
And as an economic development motivator too, we're looking at, look at the technology industry out in California, in those regions and areas. Before that was, computers, oh yeah, no one will ever use it. Go online, people will never spend their money online. Remember talking about all that back then? La Jolla, remember what it used to be and what it is now? If you think about from an investment standpoint and helping to build and subsidize communities with good, viable economic development, it could be the Silicon Valley of whatever, bringing renewables to this area. Hey, you can test out your concepts. We'll buy it from you, so you're making money and you can apply for grants, and then you bring your manufacturing plants here. And so that's a pretty incredible thought.
And conversely, I think you'll probably see interest for people wanting to put units off in the test, the production field, if you want to call it that, further into the Gulf Stream. And again, it doesn't mean anything if they're doing it there and they can't get the power to shore.
Right.
And into the grid, and that's the role we can play if we're smart and savvy about it.
See, being behind the curve, having all those things left may finally come through for us. Okay, want to continue on? Do you have more?
I think that's really it. Madam Mayor and Commission, we are, as a board, are very dedicated. If you don't know that about us now, you should. And we're very committed to making sure we do a great job for you. And it's helpful to know what it is if there are work products you'd like us to produce, like the one Commissioner Maxwell asked for, we can certainly do that. We seek direction, as well as the opportunity to share ideas with you, such as this forum. We've talked about really dreaming big, and there's the possibility of mining big data, which we haven't even really scratched the surface of, with the idea of having a delivery system which is on demand. So the moment Mrs. Jones needs the electrons, they're there. And it's smart enough to know when that moment is. That's the ultimate in efficiency. And I think with the things that we can possibly do as a collective, we can beat Florida Power and Light's rates. I truly believe that. That is our goal. And I think that's where we're headed.
Commissioner Amoruso?
I want to take a moment and thank each and every one of you for your time and your dedication, because, you've definitely helped us move along in the last 6 years. Huge value to the table, and, you know, thank you for your time. I know that, you know, sometimes it's hard to be a volunteer, and especially in the city of Lake Worth, because we have a lot of challenges. So thank you. Some of the key points that jumped out at me that, you know, I think are hot topics for me, the retooling. We've continuously talked about the retooling and what does that look like. The gas line. I'm still concerned that we're paying out on that gas line. I'd like to see, you know, options of what we can do with that gas line, what we can do with the land around the gas line. What does that look like? More solar. And what I mean by more solar is trying to think outside the box with grants, with partnerships that will bring us more solar that we don't have to pay for necessarily. I think because we have jumped out there and we've got this great thing going on, I think with partnerships, with name recognition, I think there's probably a lot of solar people out there, grant money out there that solar people want to buy in. So I'd like to look outside the box in some, you know, what does it look like to have a big solar name on our field? You know, what does that look like in grants and partnerships? Electric cars. I still see a lot of cities moving forward with electric car stations. In the future, I'd like to see us have at least one station in the city of Lake Worth where power electric cars can be plugged in. You know, I see a lot of even the island, the south end of the island. Has a lot of electric cars. So those are things that kind of jump out at me. Everything else you have on your list, absolutely. The only other thing I keep asking for is an update from the utility, not necessarily your board, but from the utility itself on every single one of our agendas. We're talking about something to do with electric. Whether it's coming from your board or it's coming from the utility department through the city manager, we constantly talk about electric and the great things that we're doing and how to move it forward.
Mr. Robinson?
I want to thank the board as well, the volunteers. You guys really are serious about your job, and I like that. The payment, I don't know if anybody, I get an FP&L bill, and I don't go to the office to pay it. The cost of doing that for us is how much? Anyhow, it's we should look at the cost of collecting the electric bill. I would also like to look at the parity of commercial rate. I think that's important too. And the other thing is now I'm privy to the outages, and is that how does that fit with last year and the year before? I know at your last meeting, I heard you say that you can't control driving as a cause of outages, but it seems to be.
What?
The outages are, I don't want to be concerned about them, but there seem to be a lot of them too.
Are you looking for reliability indices,
Yes.
an update, a comparison between this year and last year? I can get that for you, yes.
Stick around, I think.
Good.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Just to bring it all together for myself, I think what I heard here tonight is, or what I'm thinking right now is, the term island has been used tonight quite a bit to illustrate what could be. I don't necessarily want to use that terminology, but I definitely want to see us in a situation where we are self-sufficient and not necessarily dependent on the outside world. I firmly believe, based on what little I understand of how plants operate and their heat ratios and all that goes with that, that at the end of the day, we're probably going to be light years ahead by generating our own power. We're going to be able to probably, even after the debt service, provide electric cheaper than we can buy it off the grid. And that second tie line that I brought up earlier certainly would be an advantageous thing to have for us, because even if we do have a hurricane and we are self-sufficient, that gives us an option to pump out to the grid where we wouldn't have that option. So it's a fail-safe type of piece of asset that we need to have in place. Again, I want to thank you all for your dedication and commitment, and I know it's been dedication and commitment that has taken you through these last several years. I wish we could have more frequent meetings. In fact, I'd kind of like to recommend that we set up some sort of a more standing schedule of reports, if you will. If you think that maybe quarterly would be a great way to do it, or every 4 months or whatever, I'll let you all decide amongst yourselves. But I think that if you can come up with a time frame, if you will, between reports and let us know, I think we could probably see our way clear to have you included into our commission meetings, because I think the public is anxious to hear the progress that you're having and the direction that we're going. So again, thank you all very much for all that you do.
Commissioner Hardy?
Well, I can't say anything that hasn't been said. I just want to thank you guys, like everyone else has, for the work that you guys have done, the time, the effort that it takes. All of you who aren't engineers, at least not all of you aren't, to really understand what's happening here and to offer your services to the city. I very much appreciate that, and for all the residents who don't say thank you guys. The other thing is, like Andy, I would very much like to see something from electric utility on our regular meetings. Every single meeting, it's a really important part of what we do here in the city, and I'm sure there's something informative that we can have in our meetings. And yes, thank you guys.
Thank you. Do you have any appointings that you need done by us to your board? Are there any openings? There's one pending? Okay. Just want to make sure that we do the right thing. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, before
All right, go ahead.
you have an appointment?
I've made,
You made it? Okay, so it's probably going to be on our next regular commission meeting.
Before we adjourn, I just wanted to ask board members, is there anything that you need from us? Anything that we can do to help you move along a little quicker? Are you getting what you need from staff? Peggy, Caroline, Noah,
Roger.
Roger.
Okay, I'd like to wrap. I was still talking.
Okay, sorry.
I let you guys talk all
You gave
night.
me the floor.
Because I didn't want to be rude. I wanted to continue on what the vice mayor was saying too. The one thing, it's so interesting how much we've learned in 6 years being here and going through that whole process in the beginning with Shep and Barbara and all that. All that. It was just really interesting, and coming in so raw. I know. Did I say that? I'm sorry about that. But going through all of that and learning so much, and then to see the things like that have happened, I agree with the vice mayor in that that whole island philosophy used to mean a whole other thing 6 years ago. It really did. Now, one thing to keep in mind with what's going on in the world, everything from saltwater intrusion wells. Look at what Miami's going through right now. Water is going to be quite the commodity, defined and whatnot. Do we have, and I know this is an aside, but I hope you'll grant me a little leeway here, fellow commissioners. Do we have saltwater salinization through our RO plant? Do you know?
Brian.
I'm sorry, Brian. And I'm tying this. I'll tie this back to the electric utility in a second. You'll see where I'm going.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Brian Shields, Water Utility Director. No, we don't have desal per se. We have reverse osmosis, low pressure reverse osmosis from the upper Floridan aquifer, which is a little bit different. It is saline water, but not to the extent of seawater.
Okay.
Okay.
So as we look in the future, of some of the decisions that we've made, as we're going to face these environmental challenges as time goes on, and the one thing about the electric utility, about being that island able to produce and supply, being that island for ourselves so that we have and take care of our own residents, but also to be able to supply. I look at the problem in West Palm Beach going through that whole issue with water. Remember how long they were without quality water? Their water was disturbed. These types of things, we should be able to supply to West Palm Beach if they need help, or supply. Same thing with power. us being able, and that's what I always thought about with the tie lines too, us to be able to, we're buying from OUC, why couldn't we be supplying power elsewhere? I just want to put my 2 cents in to say an island, but that the ability to stand alone as we do, again, former we talk about environmental scars, former scars in dysfunction, I guess maybe in our utility side, we can turn them into truly profitable, forward-thinking, progressive, renewable energy solutions, providing all the great things, as this environment changes and sea level rise and all those things, being able to provide fresh, clean water for communities that will not be able to get it. I know Miami's having a problem. A very serious problem right now. So, is that a giant expenditure, Brian?
No, we're prepared. We have excess capacity, and we are prepared to serve our neighbors if it ever came to that. So we have planned for that.
And what about in our own well system? What is that status?
We're in good shape because we have to keep track of saltwater intrusion under our water use permit. We've shifted our pumpage to the west, and most of our wells are now located west of I-95, and then we've gone to the Florida Aquifer with the reverse osmosis. So between the combination of those two well fields, we're well prepared to deal with any future event.
Okay. Oh, we're high enough. Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking along those lines. Sorry, City Manager.
When you were
Yeah,
thinking,
I want to thank you all again very, very much. You all bring so many different things to the table, and it's been a joy. Let me tell you, for 6 years, and I can't wait to get through the next chapter with you, God willing.
Madam Mayor, I just too, on behalf of staff, I wanted to thank the EUAB, their time, their dedication. I know as the city manager, I greatly value their input. This is a group that does not mince its words. They can be very pointed, and it's things we need to hear. I know from staff's perspective, the comments and the input that we received has helped us dramatically and tremendously in so many ways. So thank you. I appreciate all your work and look forward to bringing the new director on board.
Vero Beach.
Were we going to do Vero Beach too?
I was interested. Yeah, I wanted an update.
Okay. Walt's over there. He's all excited. I'll let you do it, Walt. Okay, go ahead.
I've been following the Vero Beach saga since inception back in 2005. Many things have happened, many things have occurred, many things have stopped, many things have changed and everything. Fast forward to a month ago, just about. They entered into a letter of intent with FPL to sell the entire system for $185 million. FMPA is asking for 108 of that, 185. OUC is asking, was asking for 20 million. OUC was asking for 20 million. Their pension liabilities was 40 or 50 million, to the point to where they're just going to end up with $20 million. It's very in the fruitile stages and everything. FPL wants to get it done. OUC's $108 million price tag was based on an October 1 exit. FPL's trying to push for January, which is going to change the whole ball game and everything. OUC just came out and they no longer want the 20 million, they want a $50 million buyout. So it's not over. The saga is not over with. It's a continuing saga. They're gonna OUC and Vero are intending on going into mediation to figure out if they can come up with some type of agreement. Now, with all that being said, once it's all said and done and everything's in place, it still has to go to the FMPA.
And doesn't it have to unanimously
It has to
agree
be
to let them
it
out?
has to be a total unanimous decision to exit out of the FMPA.
That's what I was trying to get at before. Okay.
Yes.
So, it's
So
still going
any
crazy.
one of the 23 members of FMPA can say, no, we don't want this, and it cuts the whole thing.
And how many millions have they spent trying to get out of this?
I don't know exactly how many millions. I know it's been a big burden on their taxpayers. They also have, if the full sale falls through, they're going to go back to the partial sale, with just the Shores residents being sold off into FPL. What a partial sale does is it doesn't accomplish what they're trying to do. What a partial sale is going to end up doing is it's going to end up raising the rates for the remaining customers. because they're gonna have to foot the bill.
And don't they have the same obligations with Stanton and St. Lucie?
Yes, they have the same, that's why it's all gotta
It's
go
almost
through the
like
fund.
mirrored to what
But
Marcy
basically, the
mentioned.
$108 million was to buy them obligations out.
Buy those down.
Their
Yes.
their megawatts ownership are
It's
reversed from
reversed
ours.
from us.
So they own 10 at
That's
St.
right.
Lucie and 20 at Stanton.
Exactly, yeah.
Commissioner Hardy?
This line of questioning is directed to people who are watching here and who maybe have wanted, us to follow the same route that Vero is following. I guess, was it not a referendum that started
Yeah,
this process?
it was a referendum, and then they put it to the citizens to vote twice.
Right.
Twice they voted on trying to sell out, not sell out, but sell the utility.
So basically, what you have here is a situation in which all of the people that Vero has to negotiate with and deal with knows that the city has its back against the wall and absolutely must follow this course of action. And they have absolutely no negotiating leverage right now, and they're getting jerked around by everybody.
They've entered into many contracts, purchase power contracts and everything. They've already decommissioned Big Blue, is what you call it Big Bertha over there. Their plant was called Big Blue. That's already been dismantled. They decommed that a couple years ago, and it's been dismantled. But for them to do that, they had that second tie line built. That's what allowed them to do that. So they had that second tie line built, which allowed them to actually take Big Blue offline. But yes, the citizens were asked to vote on it twice, and this is where we're at with it right now. It's an ongoing saga, and that news about OUC came out literally yesterday. Mike and I were emailing back. The CM and the assistant CM and myself were emailing back and forth. Did you see this? What's going on? And everything like that. At least it wasn't us. That kind of stuff. So.
Vice Mayor?
Knowing that 23 members of FMPA would have to agree to any potential sale, are any of the monies that are being used to buy out in Vero Beach, any of that money come back to any of the 23 partners in FMPA?
I cannot answer this, Vice Mayor. Not right now.
They would in this fashion.
Can you use the mic?
As I understand what has been proposed, portion of their obligation, which would be the same for us, is the ongoing maintenance obligation for the Stanton and St. Lucie plants. And so that's a part of the buyout. That would go back to, but it's a net present value dollar number. So in essence, it leaves fewer of us to pay for the obligations down the road at today's dollars. So it's not a very good deal for the members of FMPA. As a matter of fact, as one board member, the board did not vote, but I as one board member said, I think we should vote no, because it's less resources, less people in the pool to cover the cost.
So your costs will go up.
Your costs will ultimately go up.
Commissioner Robinson?
Walt, the Vero ballot question emphasizes the importance of the wording of a ballot question. Do you know the specifics of where they went wrong on the ballot question? Or,
The ballot question was very simple, and the ballot question is:
Maybe that was
Are we
the
gonna?
problem.
Are we gonna? Do you want us to sell the electric utility? It was a straightforward ballot question to the citizens. There wasn't a lot of grit, like when we go and vote on stuff. There wasn't a lot of meat and potatoes and everything. There's a lot of innuendos that are spoken around with past commissions up there, and they actually were doing quite well where they were training their focus on they actually started reducing their rates. They started reinvesting in the distribution and everything like that, and then lo and behold, they had an election last November, and the dice flipped back over to sell.
So investing in distribution is good.
Always investing in distribution. You got to get the electrons to the people. Because if you're not getting electrons to the people, you're not gonna make no money, because the meter's not spinning.
Kind of like having the world's best water and not being able to drink it at your faucet, sort of like that? Oh, okay. Caroline, did you have something?
Just to add to that, I think the issue with Vero was they put it on the referendum first before they figured out whether or not they could sell.
Right.
Whereas we did just the opposite and chose not to.
Right. And we have to focus on the distribution system because there are still, I mean, you've heard me before up here, I hate to say it, but there's still issues in the north end.
Oh, absolutely, and I know that, I know there's issues out there, there's issues still out there, and we still gotta address them and everything, which, you know, with the conversion, we wipe them all out, so.
It can't happen soon enough. Well, thank you all again very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And always such great work. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And we thank the board, and we should thank Walt too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Walt.
He stepped up.
Thank you.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn?
My pleasure.
So moved.
Yep, seconded.
All those in favor, state so by saying aye. Aye. Good night, everyone. And good night, everyone at home. Have a good one.
So,
Yeah, but before we get back, it was my pen.